Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Hello.
Pranali.
Hello friends, Pranali Pawar here, STEM coordinator from Eklavya India Foundation. Today we will conduct this session regarding how to create curriculum with a CV. So we will take few minutes, so please wait till all students will come, students will come.
पण त्याला किती टोकला आणि ते संगत पण नसतं अजिबात असं बी झालं असतं आता
Please mute yourself.
मीटिंग चालू होतं. Hi, Neeraj.
Hello. Hello, Neeraj sir.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Neeraj. I will start in 2 more minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm
cool.
just figuring
Yes,
out my
Neeraj sir,
camera.
we will wait for a few minutes
Yeah,
only
yeah.
till the all mentees will come. Please wait for a few minutes.
Okay.
Hello friends, it's 6:05 now. I think we should start now. Now I would like to introduce our honorable guest, Mr. Neeraj Shetye. He is the Partnership and Communications Manager at the Oxford India Center for Sustainable Development, which is also called as OICSD. He oversees partnerships, operations, and communication strategy for the center with a master in politics of conflicts, rights, and justice from source. His research interest is in Indian social policy and politics, focusing on social justice. He combines his role at OICSD, which is also called as Oxford India Center for Sustainable Development, with pro bono consulting for grassroots NGOs in India and to bridge the gap between civil society and policy making through research. So that's all about our today's honorable guest. Yes, yes, sir. I would like to request you or to please share us your valuable guidance upon how to create a curriculum within CV. So now it's up to you, Neeraj sir. So please guide us.
All right. Thank you, Pranali. Thank you, Angiras, for the introduction. I hope I'm audible to everybody. If I'm not, please let me know in the chat.
You're
Your
audible.
audience.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And as both of them have already said, it would be better to have your profile on mute until like I finish this presentation. It's quite brief, and then we'll do basically like a Q&A sorts where you can bring up your queries if you have any. The idea is I'm not going to take long. I'm just going to present a 15 to 20-minute guide on how to draft a CV. And then we can have majority of the hour for a discussion where I'm happy to answer any queries, any specific queries that you have. I'm not a super expert about things. So if there is something that I don't know, I'd ask for extra time. I can do my own research, ask a few more people, and then come back to you. So without further ado, I'll just share my screen. And yeah, I hope again it's visible to everyone.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right. So I'll now this is coming again. I'm Neeraj again. I've been associated with Eklavya since 2021 when I met Raju for the first time. And I'm quite glad that so many of you have signed up and are aspiring to pursue higher education outside of India. I don't know the profiles of everyone who are on the call, but I'm guessing most of you are enrolled in some or the other program or are working. So the CV making workshop or CV making tips that we have today is generally for everyone, but it can be tailored to your specific experiences. So I've presented a general picture. If you think this requires any changes, or if you think that some of these things are not relevant to you, please let me know. My Hindi is not very great. My Marathi is good. So I will try to do the session in all three languages. Again, if there's no clarity, again, stop me and ask or like raise it in the chat, and I'm happy to go back and answer any queries. So the first thing in a CV, when somebody asks for CV, there's also this other word called resume, and people often get confused between whether CV and resume are the same things. I'd like to clarify it today that it's not essentially, it's not the same thing. So CV and resume are two very different documents that a person needs. And I think all of you should have a CV and a resume both. A CV is basically a detailed overview of your profile. The full form of CV is, of course, curriculum vitae. Curriculum vitae is a Latin phrase for the word course of your life. So basically, it's like a summary of what you have done so far. So it's a detailed overview of your profile. It's used for both academic as well as for professional purposes. So some organizations might ask you for a CV and like, a resume as well, but CV is preferred on both ends. It's longer than a resume. So of course, a resume is much shorter. This document has all your details, which is why it becomes slightly longer. And if you're doing university application, which is why we have this program for the Global Scholars Program, it's a preferred document. So a CV is more necessary than a resume when it comes to university applications. On the other hand, a resume is a very brief overview of your career. So it's only 1 page long. It should not be more than that. And it's mostly used for professional purposes. So if you apply for jobs after these programs, or if you're applying for jobs within India, resume is something that people ask for. And it should highlight only relevant experiences for that position, which means that the resume is different for each job that you apply. So say a Pranali will apply for a job, but a Pranali will have different resume for each of the applications that she's making. The resume also constantly requires you to edit and update your document, whereas a CV can be similar for everything, but it's longer. So how long, what are the things to include, what are the things to exclude? That's something we'll discuss today. But before I jump into what a CV looks like, let's look at resume, because I thought it's important for all of you to know what a resume looks like. Now, this is a very sample thing that I picked up from the internet, and I thought this was a very good example for all of you to make a note. As you can see, as resume, as I said, is 1 page long. So this is the only page that it has. It has a clear name and your current position. So where the place where it's written science CV, वहां पर आपका नाम होना चाहिए. So that's where your name goes, and there's a subtitle. The subtitle is basically what are you currently doing? अभी आप क्या कर रहे हो life में? मतलब, are you a researcher? Are you a student? That's something that needs to go. On the right hand side, that have some important details, personal details, your contact number, your email ID, your address, and a LinkedIn profile. Orchid is something that I don't know if everybody knows here, but Orchid is where all your scientific publications are put together. So if you have an Orchid ID, that's great if you can put it there. But if you don't, that's fine too. Social media links are not necessary, but if you are someone who update your social media with your career development updates, right? If your publications and your project experiences are on your social media, then you can put it, but it's not necessary. So as you can see, this person has put Twitter, and Twitter actually is slightly like has that academic end. Like, there are certain academic opportunities available on Twitter, which is why people put their Twitter IDs. Please never include your Instagram or Facebook IDs on your CV or on your resume, because those are deeply personal. Even if you update your career stuff there, it's not necessary. Please don't put it on any of your official documents. Now, for your resume, you need your professional experience, which has to be very clearly mentioned. Here, for example, it's put under the title of research experience, because this person is a postdoctoral researcher. So postdoctoral research is basically someone who's an academic research. So your professional or your research experience should be clearly mentioned. The relevant section, if you have worked at 5 organizations, out of which only 3 are relevant, mention only those 3 then, because your resume has to be 1 page long. So it's better to have relevant things mentioned clearly than have like 5 different things which are not relevant. So you can also add, one of the things that I thought was missing here was the skills column. So you can add some of your skills. I know that many of you are like STEM folks. So, you all have some lab certifications or lab experiences or some specific skills. Make sure you add it in the skills section, and always make it on Word. I know that there are very fancy things available online. You can use them, but in my experience, in personal experience, that actually doesn't make a difference. So it's better you make it on Word and then convert it into PDF. You can try these online websites. There are certain examples that are, cvmaking.com or bestcv.com, and some of these websites are available, but in my experience, that doesn't really make a difference apart from like formatting, which you can do it on Word. So that's all for resume. Now we look at what a CV component is. And in your CV component, there are 5 things that I've highlighted. So first thing that we need is your personal details. So as you saw on your resume on this slide, the first section on top is the personal details part, which is very similar on your CV. So your name has to be on our, so I've done 2 columns, and you can take a screenshot of this if it's convenient, or take a picture of this slide. But there are 2 columns to clarify the confusion that people generally ask me. Your things to include should have things like your name, which should be ideally in a bigger font size. You can include pronouns if you are a genderqueer person or a non-binary person. And if you have a preference of different pronouns, you can include that. But otherwise, your name needs to be in a much more bolder size. Your email ID. The reason I've put 2 stars next to it is because your email ID has to be correct, and an ID that you check every day. So if you have a spam email ID, or if you have an extra email ID that you don't use, that should not be on your on your CV, because you often get contacts and information, and people reach out on your email ID that's mentioned. Oh, there's a request to show my previous slide. I'll come back to that. I'll show you the previous slide. I'll try to see if I can send this presentation to Angira so it can be forwarded among all of you. But yeah, your contact number needs to be there. Your current location is important. Now here you can put, as you see in your previous slide, this person has put up their entire address. I would personally not recommend that. I will only say if you're comfortable, put your entire address, because I know that a lot of people are not very comfortable putting out their address, and because this document is shared between multiple stakeholders and many people have access to it. So address पूरा डालने की जरूरत नहीं है. अगर आपके शहर का नाम भी आप डाल दो, the city that you live in, that's also fine. So this is especially for women, for example, if you're applying for organizations and you're not comfortable sharing your entire residential address, please put only the city's name where you're currently located. Your date of birth is important because they always verify it with your application. Languages, because these are the languages that you speak. Not if there are any computer scientists, this is not where you put your coding languages. You put the languages that you speak. So it should be English, Hindi, Marathi, or if there are more languages, you can add that. Then your LinkedIn profile link can be added on your CV, gives a very good professional, touch to your CV. Please hyperlink it. And if anyone has any questions about how to hyperlink, I'll show it to you after the CV, after the presentation is done. Hyperlink is basically you have your text. The link is on your text. So you are not don't copy paste your URLs, right? Which is what I've mentioned in the second column, that these are the things that are not required. You have your date of birth. You don't need to put your age separately. So please don't add your age. Do not put any family details. This is not your marriage bio data. This is a CV. So no information about what your parents are doing, or what your sibling is doing, or what your spouse is doing. That's not necessary. And the reason I've added it here is because I've seen CVs where people put their parents' details. We don't need that. Don't copy paste URLs for LinkedIn. I will show you how to hyperlink it. Just hyperlink your URL, your profile. And if you do not add any irrelevant personal details. The details that I've mentioned on the left-hand side are the details that are needed on a CV. Anything outside of that is not required. So if you have things already on your CV which are not in those 7 things that are mentioned, please remove it because it's not required. And if you have any questions about adding some more details, please, you can ask me in this session later. So please don't add anything irrelevant detail. That takes block space, number 1, and the reader or the reviewer doesn't need to know. Second is your professional experience. Now, your professional experience is your work experience. People say work X, right? I think it's a very common term. So work experience can be mentioned that should be the second thing on your CV. Start with your most recent experience. So आपका जो current role है, अभी आप जो काम कर रहे हैं, that should be on top. And then, you go chronologically. So it has to be chronologically. So you have to mention it one after the other. Your organization's name and your position has to be correct and clear, because if there are any spelling mistakes there, that can create a problem. There has to be 3 to 4 pointers on key responsibilities for the role. And it's okay if you have you don't have 3 to 4, but make sure that there are those pointers mentioned and they're clear and they're concise. I'll show you an example, and highlight details like figures, or locations or key events that you attended, or say you were sent for a conference. Please mention it there with the location, right? And start with action words. Now, how do you do it? This is an example. I've used my own. So LinkedIn allows you to do this, right? So I've borrowed it from LinkedIn. As you can see, my position is, for example, in bold on top. forget the logo, ignore the logo. You don't need the logo, but your information is right there. So your position is on top. Your organization's name is next mentioned there, along with how's your role shaped. So कुछ लोगों का internship होता है, कुछ लोगों के लिए part time होता है, कुछ लोग full time काम करते हैं. You mention it there, right? You mention full time है या internship है या part time है. That's useful. Put it in brackets if it's helpful. Then the duration you have worked there. So for example, I joined last year, so June 2023 to present. You don't need to put like 1 year, 2 months. That is it. That is LinkedIn's work of doing it, but you don't have to do it. And location if it's different from your city. So you can put a location if it's like, it's away from your hometown. Again, an optional thing. And then as you see, I've put 3 pointers. So in your 3 pointers, ignore the numbering, as I've said, Nietzsche. Just ignore the numbering and the title. Basically, ignore that 1 and communication strategy, or 2 and partnerships, and 3 and administration. But look at the word that I've used for all 3. The first word is designing the outreach strategy, which is an action word, right? The work that you're doing becomes the highlight. Or second is coordinating with centers partners. So that shows that your focus is on the work. Don't be like, oh, I was asked to do this. That's not required too many words, and it becomes very crowded. Third is assisting the centers director. So I have all 3 sentences start with action words. So that is useful because then the reader knows, and try to use these action words from the job description. So if you're applying for a job, every job has a very long, proper description. Use words from that. But if you're applying for a university program, you can just use general action words that are available. So coordinating, assisting, designing, all of these are very straightforward, very obvious words that are available. You can use these as well. So this is a good example of how you can shape your CV and mention your professional experiences. So all your professional experiences should be mentioned in the same way and one after the other. So this is my most relevant and my most recent one. So it goes on top and the rest of them goes below, right? So that's the second component of your CV. The third is your educational qualifications. So your program and your university's name has to be clearly mentioned. The entire name of your program has to be mentioned. Do not, if your program, say for example, my thing is called MSc in Politics of Conflict, Rights and Justice. It's a big name, I understand, but I can't just use political science, right? Because it's under political science, but you can't just use political science because this is your degree. So use the entire name of your program. If people want to verify it, they can verify it online. Start with your undergraduate qualification in the sense that, or end it with your undergraduate qualifications. School details are not required. A lot of people put like their high school and then secondary school, that is not required. Your undergraduate should be the most, like the last education detail. And then if you have done a postgrad, you mention your postgrad. Your grades and marks are optional, but if only mention your final grades, your final semester grades or final grades. Do not mention all your semesters ka marks. So if you have like 8 semesters, don't mention all those 8 semesters ka marks and mention only the last one that you have. So that's the third component of your CV. Your fourth is skills. As I mentioned before, highlight any key skills that are relevant to your program. If you're applying for a postgraduate program in, in say chemistry or biology, these programs require you to be in the lab. So if you have any experience working with certain machines that are, that you had, that was quite, in India, it's very difficult to get access to those. But if you have any experience working with some of these machines, mention that. Microsoft Office is the most overlooked skill, but it's basic. So you please mention that. Excel, PowerPoint, and Word are the most basic skills. People think it's basic, so they don't mention it, but I suggest you mention that. If you know any coding languages and softwares, I know that for STEM folks, it's important that you all know certain extra things. So please mention that in the skills section. Being multilingual is also a skill, because if you're applying for an international program, you are put into like, a lab team that is super diverse. So it's mentioned that, if people know that you speak multiple languages, that can add to your CV. So do mention that you're multilingual, and then hyphen, and then mention all the languages that you know. And update this section as you acquire new skill. That's important. So if you learn a new software, you get a new certification, please mention it in the skill section. That's the fourth component. And the last component that I would highly recommend is, your projects, lab certification, publication. Now, don't use this entire title. You can use one of these 3 words, or like awards, which is the fourth one that I forgot to mention in the title. But this should be the fifth section of your CV. There can be more if you have, like, say for example, you have projects and publications, mention as two different things. If you have just publications, just mention publications. If you have lab certifications and awards, mention it. So these are the four options. You can include all, or like two of them or three of them or whatever. List out your publications as you saw in your resume here. You see the second section, you see how they've mentioned the publications there. It has to be done in a particular format that's available online. So if you have gotten something published in a journal, all of that information needs to be cited like this, in either like one of the formats that is acceptable in your domain. And hyperlink it. Again, I'll show you how to hyperlink your papers, but if it's available online, it's useful to hyperlink it because people can just check it out right there. Don't add any URLs or don't copy paste any URLs. It looks very ugly on your CV and takes a lot of space. Highlight any certifications that you have with the name of the certificate issuing organization, which is very common. Say there are different centers. For example, I know that in India for sciences, there is that Hafkin Institute in Mumbai, right? If you have done a project with them, just mention Hafkin Institute like next to it. That's an example I'm giving. So mention the organization's name. Any ongoing projects can be mentioned. You don't have to just mention completed projects. Ongoing projects can be mentioned, but mention that it is an ongoing project in bracket. So people know that, results are not out yet. So that's also fine. And your awards, if you have received, say, gold medal, silver medal, or Dean's List or some certificate for your marks, mention that. Please don't mention any sports awards or cultural awards that you have won. Only mention any academic related awards that you have won, any scholarship, all of that can be mentioned in this section. And this is finally a CV checklist. Please take a screenshot or please take a picture of this slide. These are the common mistakes, very common mistakes that I've been mentoring for Eklavya GST for like a couple of years now. And I've noticed that these are the common mistakes that I see that people do in their CVs. Avoid any spelling mistakes. Please read your CV properly and avoid any kind of spelling mistake. I'm sorry, is there a question?
You please mute yourself.
Please unmute yourself. Hello.
Yeah, I've muted them. Thanks, Pranali. Right. So use the same font throughout. This is another mistake. People just start with one font and then use something else. Don't do that. If you're using one font, use that font throughout. I've given four suggestions. You can use either one of them. These are very easily available in Word document. Arial, Times New Roman, Calibri, or Georgia. These are acceptable fonts for an academic or a professional CV. So use that. Font size can be 10 or 11 depending on which font you choose. So like a Georgia is slightly bigger, so use 10 size for Georgia, but Arial and Calibri are smaller, so use 11 for them. Times New Roman, you can use 10 or 11. You can see which one you want. But yeah, these are the four suggestions. If you have any questions about which font to use, please ask. But don't use any fancy fonts. Don't use things like Comic Sans or, just because it looks easy on your eyes. That's not the goal. These are the professional fonts that are required. Bolden your titles and any key information. As you can see, let me show you here, for example, SOAS is boldened here. You can also bold your title, if your program, if it's necessary. As you can see in this resume, the name of the organizations and institutions are boldened. So like that gets an attention to whatever you're trying to convey. References are not essential unless the organization or institution asks you to include. Like, for example, when you apply for a master's program, they already ask for an LOR. So you don't need to put their details here, right? You can just put references. If they ask you specifically, please include any references, then you add it. Otherwise, you don't. And when you add references, you add things like the person's name, their designation, their email ID, and contact number if necessary. That's it. Those are the three things, right? Don't mention like more things. Don't include their bios and stuff. Just mention the name, designation, institution, and email ID. And try not to extend your CV beyond 3 pages because I think that's one of the biggest mistake people do. Your CV you can add things and you can make it 10 pages, but who has 10 pages CVs? People who have worked for like 10-15 years. So you don't need to have like a 3-page, 4-page CV. You can have like a 2-page, maximum 3, and that's crisp, because I understand STEM folks have a lot to add. So 3 pages is max. Don't try not to go beyond it unless it's absolutely necessary. And if you all are GSP mentees, then I'm sure your mentors will be able to guide you properly. Again, this is very general information. Some of these things might change for some of you. So that's why I think that's all I have to add in terms of how to design your CV. And now we can take more questions. I'm happy to share the presentation after this. But yeah, that's all I have. So I'm going to stop sharing for now. And we can open the floor for questions. Happy to answer if you have any specific questions. So yeah, please raise your hand. I think there's a raise hand option, right? There is no raise hand option here. Okay, then unmute yourself or like post your question in the chat. Happy to like answer questions. Sorry, I said I will do the session in 3 languages, but I spoke in English only. But I can answer questions in any of the 3 languages fully.
Yeah. Hi, Neeraj, Abhipsha this side. So, what do you think, like, for a postgraduate program? How much the CV is more important? Like, I have work experience like for 10 years, and I have done already my master's. So again, I want to do master's. So, I mean, uh, I mean that in my CV, the educational qualification would matter a more, or the my work experience would matter a lot.
Definitely your work experience would matter, which is why I always mention your work experience above, then your educational qualifications. And I think that's the structure everybody should follow if you have worked for like 2 years, more than 2 years, So it's important. I mean, CV is an important document. I know that it doesn't come across as an important document when you apply for a postgraduate program. But people do print your CVs. I've seen professors when they do admissions at Oxford, for example, they do print your CVs and they keep, because it's just an easy document. It's a summary of who you are, right? So if that CV is well designed and well like quoted, it helps. Of course, it might not help you get through the program. I'm not saying that a good CV will guarantee you admission, but a good CV will definitely take you, like in terms of like it will take you one step closer to what you're trying to achieve. So if you're applying for a postgraduate program, design a CV and keep. It's always handy because after you graduate, you just have to add your new qualification and you can use the same CV for applications when you do job applications or any of the other things. So yeah, just make sure that your professional experience is on top, since especially if you have 10 years of work experience, right?
Okay, yeah. And that should be very crisp, like the way you showed, like your work experience skills. So I should be like, actually in my CV, the present CV, I have written the every work I have done in that
No,
organization.
not
Okay,
needed.
okay.
Not needed. Just key things that you think. And see, this is the problem. Like this is not the problem actually. This is a trick that people need to use. What you all can do, keep a CV. That's why always make it on a Word document, because if you need to change your CV constantly for different application. I would personally, my personal trick, I'll tell you, is that I always tailor my CV for each organization that I apply to, or anything that I apply to. I change my CV, I move things around, and it's easy to do it on Word document if you use one of these online softwares. The problem is I've done that in the past, but then you have to constantly keep adding all the information on the software, right? It becomes a pain. If it's on a Word document, you can move things around very easily and change your CV for everything. So, try and do that. Try to make it on a Word document, and then update it for each organization that you're applying or each institution that you're applying to. For now, actually, I mean, in terms of admissions, it's fine if you use one CV for everything. But in the future, this is just a tip. If you all are applying for jobs and if you're not getting responses, your CV needs to be tailored for that organization, And how do you do that? You use the job description. You use, if they've given any guidance, use that as an indicator. Okay?
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
No problem. I have 2 questions in the chat that I'll first take. What about the photograph? No, absolutely not. Sorry, I forgot to mention. Please do not add photographs on your CV. It's not, and it's very unprofessional. I don't know if in India it's a thing, but like in India also, I think people I worked with never required a photograph. No photographs on your CV. If they want to see you, they can go on your LinkedIn, and your LinkedIn has a photo option. Okay, so no photographs. How many extracurricular activities do we have to mention, or what is the idea? Extracurricular activities is a very tricky domain. Personally, I've not mentioned anything extracurricular, but if you want to mention, and if it's relevant, mention not more than 4, like 3 or 4. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are the things that you can do. I can quickly show you all how to do a hyperlink. And I'll use like a Word document. Just give me a minute. If you all have any more questions until then, keep posting them. Or if anyone has anything, you all can unmute and ask. But I will try and set up a hyperlink thing and I'll let you know how to do it. Any more questions? Which document? CV. If the university is asking for a document, you have to send a CV, not a resume. Resume is mostly for jobs. Is it necessary to write objective about me summary in CV? Not necessary. It's optional. If you want to write, you can write it after your name. I personally don't do that because it takes a lot of space and it's unnecessary because, you know, CV institutions don't need to know those things because they're already they're asking you for your SOP and stuff. So, you know, that is not required. So it just blocks a lot of space. I would not recommend it. But if CV is the only document that they have asked for, then you can put like 2 or 3 lines about yourself, but otherwise it's not necessary. In my CV, I've mentioned reference, which is extending. Yeah, Pratik, it's better you remove the references section if it's making the. This is why I say, right, don't add references unless they ask you for it. And they will tell you. Believe me, they always tell you, please include references. If they're not telling you, don't include it because it's just like it's not useful. And they will ask you separately if they need any references. So let me just, yeah. I'll just share my screen and I'll quickly show you all how to. I'm very active on LinkedIn, by the way. So if you all want, you all can add me on LinkedIn or I will share my email ID here. You have to excuse me because like my email, the email ID that emails might take some time to respond. But I'll just share my email ID in the chat. Yeah, I've shared my email ID. Feel free to email me if there's anything. Please don't directly send your document first. Please ask because then I'll tell you if I'm available during that week. And then I'll look at your document. I know a lot of people just share their documents and then I don't get the time to review it. So it becomes difficult. So please check with me and I'll just share my screen and show you how to do a hyperlink. So this is. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So for example, you know, I'm just writing my name for now and I need to hyperlink this, right? How do you do it? You basically select the text, you right click and you see this section called link. You'll see link. Someone can answer.
Yes.
Yeah. You click on link and then it asks you for an address. For your address, then you say, for example, I'll show you my LinkedIn. So you copy your LinkedIn, say for example, link, copy that URL and you post it in this address. Do you see how I've done it? Because people just copy paste this in your CV directly. It looks very ugly. So just do it here. And this is called a hyperlink. Now, if people want to see it, they can, if it's a PDF, they can automatically hover over it and see it. But if like in Word document, you have to press Control. And if they click on this, it will take you to their LinkedIn profile. Has everyone noted it? Should I do it again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Say, for example, I'm writing my name. You select your name. You press right click, click on link. Then this address wala section comes up. You can copy paste the link that you want to hyperlink, right? You copy paste, where will you copy paste it? It's from Google Chrome or whatever software, whatever browser you use. And you click on OK, and that's it. That's the hyperlink. Clear? Am I clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So always this is a very simple trick. People don't use it. I hope all of you use it as much as possible on most of your documents. It's just cleaner to put hyperlinks than putting links directly. Don't copy paste links. It looks super ugly. And you know, right? I mean, people then have to copy paste that link. If people print your CV, then it becomes difficult. It will just look very bad. So that's another trick. Spelling mistakes and errors are very common, so make sure that doesn't happen in your CV. Give it to someone to read, give it to some other mentor or mentee here within GSP, and that's an exercise that we do. So yeah, make sure that someone else also looks at your CV. Any other questions?
Sir, we have one question in chat box, that is there any specific point of differences between CV from master's program and doctoral program?
Doctoral program. Akanksha, no, there is no such difference. Of course, in a doctoral program, if you have research experience, that is valued, but that is already mentioned. I'm guessing it will be mentioned in your thing. So if you're applying for a PhD, then make sure that your lab experience, certification, those things are highlighted. And I'm sure your SOP will cover all of it. So your CV can mention, any research experience that you have had. Some PhD programs require, I'm not sure, but like in humanities and social sciences, some PhD programs require that you have publications, but 99% don't. So it's a very small number. So you check with the department that you're applying for. If you need any publications, then those publications matter. Otherwise it's the same CV for masters and PhD. So if you're applying for a PhD in one place and masters in the other place, you can apply it. You can use the same CV. That's fine. Any other questions?
And sir, in the form means whenever we are applying for the application for master's as well as PhD, in the application that program means while applying in that application also they are mentioning that if there is publication, then they provide a place to provide the publication in
Yeah.
that place.
If you think about it, all the CV details are actually mentioned in your application, but it's better to put it all in one document. And the best trick for this is keep your LinkedIn profile updated at all times. Your LinkedIn profile is useful. It's not a social like it's not a social media where you post your personal details, right? You only update your professional details there. So it's important that your LinkedIn is mentioned. I'm not sure if all of you have LinkedIn. If you don't, please, I would highly suggest having a LinkedIn profile. We can just go over how to set up, like I can show you what a LinkedIn thing looks like if you don't know already. 1 second. And then you can set up your LinkedIn today, because that's one of the things we mention. And I think through GSP, we have always pushed for mentioning like having a LinkedIn profile. So make sure you have that. Okay. Let me just show you. There's one more question. Can we review a CV? We could do it. If any one of you have your CV and would like to share it to the group, we can do it. You can share your screen and I can look at it. But I'm not forcing this. If you're comfortable, you can do this. Otherwise, I'm happy to look at it afterwards. You can email it to me. But yeah, we can do an exercise where we can look at your CV. I'll just quickly show your LinkedIn until then. If anyone's volunteering to show your CV, please let me know. So this is how a LinkedIn profile looks. You need your title mentioned clearly. You need your name mentioned clearly. All of this comes up anyway. Your bio is already mentioned here. So what do you do? And it needs to be very brief, but your professional goal needs to be mentioned here separately. So that it's clear about why you're on LinkedIn. What are you trying to achieve? Now your experience goes first. As I said, on your CV as well as on LinkedIn, your experience goes first. So the most recent one is on top, and then chronologically, you have your experiences mentioned one after the other. Your educational qualifications are mentioned. Here, a lot of extra things are mentioned, but you don't need that. Only these first three things are mentioned on your CV. Your organization's name, your program, and the years that you were there in particular, in that organization. That's important. If you have any publications, that's great. If you have any projects, that's great. You can mention them, but it's not mandatory, right? Skills are mentioned. You can borrow the words from here. LinkedIn has a whole list of skills. You can just borrow, wordings from here. If you don't know how to use, what skills to mention, please go through this and pick up things from here, from LinkedIn. So that way, LinkedIn is useful. Otherwise, sometimes it can be, like here, for example, I've mentioned a publication, and it creates a hyperlink for you. So that's fine. If you have any awards, all of these things can be mentioned. But yeah, this is how a LinkedIn profile looks. It's almost like a CV, but it's on social media. So always keep your LinkedIn updated. People can reach out over LinkedIn, and you can have okay, Pratik has shared his CV. Okay, Dave has a very good question. No, and Vaishnavi, endorsement is not required, but if you can get it from your manager, that's fine. Dave, yeah, very good question. And this is something I should have highlighted before. If you're not confident, that's actually something we all need to work on. And in India, we are often taught not to boast and not to brag about your achievements. But unfortunately, we need to do that when you come abroad or when you want to move abroad, because otherwise there are hundreds of people like you. Why should an institution select you? And how would they know of you, right? And the whole idea of a Global Scholars program like this was to ensure that you build that confidence, and then, basically take it from there. So I think I've received one CV, so I'm going to review that. But Dave, I mean, I completely understand where you come from, but I would highly still suggest LinkedIn is useful in the sense that you can put all your academic career achievements in one place. You might not be able to do that on Instagram or Facebook or, all of these things, because you also update it with your personal life. But your LinkedIn is one place where you need to do it. And it's just helpful. Again, if you're not comfortable, don't do it. I'm saying ideally it's a good exercise for people to have. Do universities check applicants' LinkedIn profiles? Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. But if you put it, I've had experiences where employers also, where I've applied for jobs, have checked my LinkedIn profile. So before they wrote to me or before they conveyed their decision to me. So it's a good exercise to have your LinkedIn updated. Voicing your opinion helps. Like, again, I leave it up to you. You have the freedom of speech to write whatever you want in public, but in terms of getting jobs and referrals, it does help. I personally don't post everything online. I don't express my political opinions and stuff on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not the space to do that, because that might hamper sometimes your opportunities. But again, it's a free platform. If you feel comfortable and if you want to highlight something, please do go ahead and talk about it. Let me just quickly check the Pratik's CV. Pratik, I hope you're comfortable with me sharing the screen and doing it for the group.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just open. My screen. Can you see Pratik's CV?
Yes,
Oh,
sir,
yes,
it's
it is visible.
visible.
Okay. So Pratik, first thing in your CV that I see, it's good. It's 3 pages, so it's perfect. What I see, changes that I can suggest is, of course, your name is, like, as you say, it's quite highlighted and it's bold, so that's good. Pune, Maharashtra is your location, that's good. Your contact number is mentioned, your email ID is mentioned. But the first mistake that we see is the LinkedIn. This is what I was talking about, right? Your LinkedIn profile can be hyperlinked. This is, again, I would not require, I would suggest not removing it. It's on you though, but I would not suggest having this. And the margins on this column, as you see, is a lot. So only limited information fits on it. So increase the margin, or you can add your name and all of these details in the header. Header is here, right? So when you edit it in Word document, put your name in the header. That should be easier. If not, then just move it a bit up and remove this. I would suggest removing this. Your experience should ideally go on top before your education. So your education, as as everyone saw, we discussed earlier, it's mentioned correctly. So the name of the institution is right there, the department is right there, the program is right there, right, and the duration is there. So this is good. I would suggest uh, removing the school bit, because this is not required in a professional CV, and especially if you're aspiring for masters abroad, school and HSC and SSC is not required, so you can remove it. Move your experience above educational qualification, because this is what matters, and this is more recent, right? Because you graduated in 2023, but you have been working since then, so this is what matters. And again, use action words and at least mention two things that you did there, right? So what are the two things that you did as a consultant, as an ESD consultant? And I'm very sure ESD is all three capital. So please change that. Make sure that these little errors, that are resolved. So get your CVs checked from a mentor in GSP. Yeah, this is fine. Like, your experience is mentioned, your advisor's name is mentioned, and then there are 2 pointers about it. And what are the things? So instead of mentioning data analysis, forest management, wildlife overview, field experience, research skills, these are 4 or 5 very broad terms which you can put in your skill set. But here you can mention what you did specifically. What did you do with Mr. Kulkarni here? So you can just mention this project is about calculating the amount of firewood consumed in the Koina area, mostly concentrated on Koina Wildlife Sanctuary's nearby parts. That's fine. But what did you do as an intern? Did you go and collect data? Did you analyze data? Or, did you go on any field visits? So you can write like, analyze data for blah, blah, for blah, 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 whatever data that you analyzed. So start with the action word and make that. This project, again, this sentence can be restructured or completely removed. You can just say that, you assisted Dr. Kulkarni in a project about that. So you start your sentence with an action word. Similarly, for all of these other things, you have mentioned the duration and stuff. That's fine. Only add relevant ones when you apply for, if you think that something is now completely not relevant, remove it. That's fine. Again, I was one of the students that was, remove. There's a way to present it. Just say you were chosen. Like, start with an action word and then rephrase your sentences. I'm happy to help out if anyone needs any support there. But yeah, good job mentioning all your e-learning certifications. This is what I was talking about, right? You have certification and you have mentioned the name of the institution that has issued you the certificate. That's a good thing. Please, like, this colorful thing doesn't work in a CV. Please use one color tone, which is black, and only bold it if necessary. But this green, blue, and stuff doesn't work, right? Even for your name, please, like, make it bold and black if possible, and use only one kind of font throughout. Even like these titles can be black. You don't need a different color for this. So it can be black and bold. All right. So your workshops are mentioned, professional training. Now, languages, again, if you have IELTS certification, it can go under, skills and certification. You can make one column saying skills and certification and then mention it here. Again, no vice of Python language. That's not necessary. That's not how you write it. You just write Python and in bracket, you write beginner or like, amateur or beginner. These are the words you use. So if you write beginner, that's fine. They'll also know that you are still learning these things. Good job mentioning GIS, remote sensing. So, environmental awareness is not necessary. It's a very generic term. It just holds a lot of space, but it's completely irrelevant. So remove that. And remove the references, as I said, unless they've asked for it. So yeah, I mean, overall, it's a good CV. I would give it a 6 on 10. But if you make these changes, I think this has a potential to be like a 9 or 10 on 10, right? But if anyone has any questions, do we need to mention internships we did? Yeah, if it's a relevant internships, why not? So if you have done any relevant internship, do mention it, Vaishnavi. Since now we have 3 years of it. That's fine. Like, if you have 3 years of experiences, that's fine too. But yeah, that's there. I know someone else also sent me a CV. I can open that. This is the thing. Aditi, are you okay with me sharing your CV with the group? Aditi, are you there?
Yes.
Are you okay with me opening your CV for the group?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll open Aditi's CV. Can you all see Aditi's CV?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So here, see, this is a good example of how the margins are used. And you can see it in both the CVs that we were discussing. One CV has like a lot of margin space, but here Aditi's CV has, a good margin space. I think it's standard. But this is how you mention your name, center. It's separately mentioned, it's highlighted. So you can do this. This is a good way of mentioning it. Don't need to put like a personal data title, but okay, it's fine. You have your email, you have your contact number. LinkedIn, she's mentioned with Aditi as a name. So this is how you mention, LinkedIn. You can just write LinkedIn profile and you can click on it. See, can you all see how, like, if I move my cursor there, it becomes you can click on this. So people can access a LinkedIn link very easily. So this is good. Again, address she has mentioned with the city's name. That's perfect. She's mentioned a career objective section. You can have this, like, this is good if it's like, if you think it's necessary, but I personally, again, as I said, I won't suggest having this. But this is fine. This is completely fine if you think this is relevant. I would suggest, again, same as Pratik, moving your work experience section above. That needs to be highlighted. And instead of mentioning all of these as point, this is where I think, Aditi, you require a lot of editing. You mentioned, as we have discussed now, how to mention your organization's name. You do that and then you mention it. Like, each of this needs to be separately mentioned, but these are just like 10 pointers. This looks like you have no work experience, so make sure you mention that. But you're also a recent graduate, so I completely understand. Your work experience and your education is mentioned correctly. You have the name of the program, you have the institution where you completed it from, and your CGPA mentioned. This is fine. So your year is also mentioned, so people know what year did you complete it in. So yeah, I mean, I suggest work experience requires some editing. Accomplishments is fine. Your rewards and recognitions are mentioned. But then, again, won first prize in quiz competition. Okay, fine. I mean, if you think this is relevant, I would not personally put it for your master's application, in your CV at least, because if you can put it in your application separately, but like, don't put it in your CV. It takes space. Community engagement is fine. This is important. Some volunteering experience is always appreciated abroad. And professional development. Okay. This is optional, Aditi, I would say. Or like, some of this information, I think I need to go through this, but some of this information can be in other sections. But yeah, we can have a look at this on how to do this, uh, because some of this looks like can go in certifications as well. But good job mentioning your technical skills and then separate skills. Again, Microsoft Office is not mentioned here, so please make sure that you edit it and mention that, because it's one of the most underrated things that people miss out on. Like, yeah, people just assume everyone knows Microsoft Office, but there are a lot of people that don't. So it's important to mention that. Social responsibilities. Now, social responsibilities and community engagement is something that you can club together or see if it's necessary. But this is, again, takes a lot of space. So have a look at it, rethink it, because once you edit your work experience in the format we discussed, you will need more space. So if you have to chuck things out, I think either chuck social responsibilities and interests. That is not needed. They know you're interested, which is why you're applying. So this is not needed here. I'd also give this a 6 on 10, because like, a lot of this needs restructuring, but it's a very good, the basic things are in place. So information is all right there. I think work experience bit is very important, that you need to edit it, right? Okay. So I'll take suggestion again, investment and okay, Shivan. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for the compliment. Shivani, I'm planning to take cybersecurity course for masters, and you have done an internship in embedded system design. If it's relevant, yes, please mention it. Again, I'm sorry, uh, I'm not an expert in cybersecurity, but yeah, if it's relevant, do mention it. Yes, please mention if it's relevant. Perfect. Jay has sent his CV. This is, I mean, we have 5 more minutes, so I'll quickly do it. But everyone else, now please don't send more CVs here, but I'm happy to look at it if you email it to me. And based on these suggestions, if you draft your CV and then send it to the mentors, that's fine too. So can you all see Jay's, this is not a CV, this is a resume. Can you all see the resume on your screen? Someone please
Yes,
answer.
sir.
Yes, yes.
Don't call me sir, you all can just call me Neeraj, please. Okay, Jay, so this is Jay's resume. This is not a CV. We have just figured out what the difference between a CV and resume is. Very good mentioning your name, your email ID, and your phone number, as we discussed. LinkedIn can be hyperlinked, so please change that. I would suggest, Jay, that use black as the only color. Don't use colors, because unless you're a creative professional, if you're applying for design jobs and stuff, you can use that. But otherwise use black throughout. Here you can see formatting errors. This is again advanced work of CV that we are discussing now. But formatting errors is this. And this seems to be done online on some software, or maybe like this doesn't seem to be like a Word document thing. But yeah, as we discussed, move your work experience above, education below. This formatting error that we see, right? Information is just mentioned, but this can be corrected later on. We discussed the format. So if you change this into the format that we discussed, you would see like a cleaner version of this. Now, for example, look at the margins here. Like this 24 has almost entered the margin. If they want to print your stuff, they'll lose out on a lot of things. Also, the font size is big. So you need to like edit. I think this was a sentence that you tried writing, or it's incomplete. So make sure that you edit it out, you edit your CV properly. Yeah, I mean, this needs heavy editing. So yeah, that's fine. I mean, this is a good start. I think if this is the first CV you're designing, this is a very good start. So I would suggest we can work through. No, don't apologize, Jai. Please don't apologize. It's a good experience thank you for sharing it. So it's a good thing that you all are confident enough to share your CVs. And this is what we want in Eklavya GSP. We want you to develop that confidence, so that you can share resources with each other, help each other out. And in the future, once you get through, you help others out. So that's important. So don't apologize for any mistakes. Just make sure that you make those edits and make those changes. And if you have any questions, always ask those questions. There is no dumb question, by the way. There might be a question that you have in your mind, someone else also has it, but एक के पास confidence होता है तो वो पूछ लेता है, and then बाकी someone else also is like, okay, I also had the same question. And this happened in our workshops as well. I've heard it from Raju, and I've heard it from Eknath and all of these people. So this does happen. So ask whatever questions you have in mind. Kajal, I'm sorry, but you can share your CV with me, like give it to Angiras or Pranali, or Angiras has my number, so he can just share it with me and we can do it there. I can send you a review. Unfortunately, today I don't have time, but I can make some time next weekend. So if anybody has, any CVs or this to mention, you can email it to me. Again, don't call me sir. My name is Neeraj. You all can call me Neeraj. I'm hoping that I'm not sure if you all are applying this year or the following year, but make sure you start working on your CV. CV is a very easy first document to prepare because it's about you. It's not like an SOP or a cover letter. SOP and cover letter takes time. But if you have, if you have all the information, sit and start drafting your CV. It won't be fair in the first go. In the first go, you'll take time. I'll share the presentation with you, so you can use that as a checklist. on whether you're doing it correctly or not. And if you're happy to share it with us in GSP, we are happy to review it for you. But yeah, that's it. Angira, is there anything that we need to focus on after this? But yeah, that's all from my end. Thank you.
No, all good.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Then you have, I mean, my LinkedIn is very easily accessible. Just add me on LinkedIn. And then if you have any questions, you can text me on LinkedIn or like email it to me. Yeah, please share your CVs on LinkedIn if you're comfortable. And make these changes that we discussed today. And then if you do that, that's easier for me as well, because then I know that I don't have to repeat a lot of things. But Angiras, I'll send you the presentation. Just figure out a way to share it with everybody. Sure.
Yeah, I'll share it on the group.
Okay, perfect. Fantastic. So I hope this session was useful for all of you. And I hope GSP continues to help you build that confidence. And I hope to see some of you in the UK if you're applying here in the future. Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you, Neeraj, so
No,
much
no.
for your valuable insights. And I'm assure you from our whole Eklavya team and our today's mentee that this session will not only helpful for this today's or for the upcoming years, it will be helpful for our academic as well as professional journey as well. So thank you so much for your valuable insights and time.
Absolutely. That's very
Thank you
sweet of
so
you,
much.
Pranali. Thank you so much. Thank you for those kind words. Happy to help out, more people. If I'm in India in December, and if you all are planning something in Nagpur, that would also be a good opportunity for us to engage. But yeah, looking forward to more engagements with all of you, and all the best for whatever you're preparing for. Right. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Neeraj, for your
Thank
time.
you.
No problem. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.